Hello everyone, you have come to Tata Comic Preview channel. Let read together. Have fun. Zhenghai and Yuan'er exchanged a glance. They tacitly flanked their junior sisters as they flew toward the golden flames. The cultivators from the Sky Martial Court and the Flying Star House looked at Nye, who had flown out as well. With Sikong Baichen and Nye around, the Sky Martial Court and the Flying Star House did not dare to act rashly. The Sky Martial Court had the support of Shu, a 10-leaf cultivator who managed to master the karmic fire. Meanwhile, the Flying Star House that had a good relationship with the Sky Martial Court had a 10-leaf cultivator among their ranks as well. The 10,000 cultivators flew out closely in a huge group. It made for a rather majestic sight. Where's he going? No idea. Just keep going after him. The cultivators kept moving. Apart from the 10-leaf cultivators, most of the cultivators had a hard time catching up to Zhou and Zhen. Fortunately, the 10-leaf cultivators did not leave the others behind and adjusted their speed to accommodate the others. Zhou's expression was calm as he flew toward the cage. Zhen had lost 3 lives consecutively and had suffered heavy injuries. Moreover, he was still in the process of sprouting a leaf. He wanted nothing more than to find a hole to hide in forever. At this moment, he finally landed on the northernmost observatory platform of the 12 peaks. His eyes were bloodshot as he looked at the cage that was sailing toward him before he shifted them to his red lotus. Sprout. Zhen channeled a huge amount of energy into his red lotus in a frenzy. He desperately hoped he would be able to break through to the 10-leaf stage at the critical moment. This was his only hope of turning the tides of the battle. The binding cage card shone intensely with golden light that covered the entire round observatory platform. The round observatory platform was several hundred feet wide and had 4 pillars in 4 directions. Apart from that, there were 6 huge rocks hovering in the air as though they were shackled in place by some unique Taoist veins. Boom. At this moment, the binding cage dropped on the observatory platform. Boom. The golden cage surrounded the 170-foot-9 infant's avatar on the observatory platform as soon as it dropped. What is this? Zhen looked up. Although he had read many books and was familiar with many cultivation paths, he could not identify the golden cage. At this moment, he finally realized just how superficial his understanding of the old man was. It seemed like the number of leaves on a lotus was no longer an accurate way to measure someone's cultivation base. The cage disappeared soon after. Zhou dove and landed on the observatory tower. He stroked his beard with one hand on his back. He looked at Zhen expressionlessly as he said, "You're quite lucky." Lucky? Zhen was baffled. Zhou looked at Zhen's spinning red lotus and said, "You have nowhere to run." Don't be so sure about that. Zhen stomped his feet. The observatory platform's Taoist veins shone. Zhen's Confucian robes were shredded by a gust of energy and scattered in the wind. One could immediately see the Confucian runes that were inscribed on his body. Apart from that, there were also red symbols, lines, and the 9 infants. The 10,000 cultivators who had hurried over were shocked by this sight. Zhen's performance kept renewing everyone's knowledge. They knew he had a profound cultivation base and was knowledgeable. However, they did not expect him to have an unknown side to him as well. Not only did he worship the 9 infants, but he had also inscribed the 9 infants on his body and branded it on his blood and soul. The karmic fire burned away at Zhen's robes before pieces of the robe turned into final talismans and rune seals above the observatory platform. The 9 infants inscribed on Zhen's body glowed faintly. Zhou kept his eyes on Zhen. At this moment, Zhen said, "I've created many new cultivation paths over the past century. For example, the way to make my avatar appear humanoid, form different energy seals, and the way to enable my avatar to move freely and kill. This current technique is called exchange of life. I can exchange one life for an incredibly powerful attack." Zhen struck with his palm as soon as he finished speaking. One of the 3 heads on his avatar drooped immediately. A blast of red energy began to surge and swell, accompanied by the rune seals. You want to sacrifice one of your lives? You're dreaming. Zhou raised his hand again. He tossed his final Thunderblast card at Yizhen's main body. The others watched as a palm seal with lightning descended. The fragments of the Confucian robes tried to repel the lightning bolt immediately. Boom. The Thunderblast passed through the rune seals in the air and hit Yizhen. Yizhen grunted in pain as he was sent flying by Thunderblast, spitting out blood. He looked at Zhou incredulously. Zhou stepped forward. Unnamed materialized in his hand again. The black runes swirled around the blade. He unleashed his grand technique and appeared above Yizhen's 9 infants avatar. He brought his blade down mercilessly on the neck of one of the heads. The energy around Unnamed slashed through the neck like a hot knife through butter. Yizhen received another heavy blow. His expression was murderous as he glared at Zhou. Blood trickled out of his orifices as the patterns on his body dimmed slightly. With a loud bang, he crashed against a huge pillar on the observatory platform. At the same time, Yizhen's spinning red lotus began to slow down. The decapitated head fell and vanished, returning to nature. Ding. Killed a target. Reward, 4,500 merit points. Yizhen fell to the ground. He flipped and landed on his knees. He supported his weight with both hands on the ground. Exchange of life was the technique he had the most confidence in, but it was still stopped by Zhou. The difference between their strength was too great. With this, Yizhen lost, again. Zhou withdrew unnamed after his attack landed with utmost precision. He had moved at lightning speed that almost no one noticed the black runes on unnamed. Moreover, unnamed was glowing with golden energy and there were many red rune seals in the air that confused the others. All in all, it was incredibly difficult to notice the black runes. Zhou stroked his beard as he looked at Yizhen, who was kneeling on the ground, with a blank expression. You're really not tactful at all. The 10,000 cultivators remained silent, too afraid to make a sound. Is Yizhen going to submit? The difference is too great. Yizhen can't possibly be a match for Brother Liu, Sikong Beichen said confidently. Meanwhile, the word had said Sikong Beichen. The words "are not tactful" grated on Yizhen's nerves and stabbed his heart. He could hardly endure this. Blood continued to trickle out of his orifices onto the stone floor. After a beat, he channeled his primal chi from his palms into the stone floor. The 4 pillars immediately formed pillars of light that sealed off the observatory platform. The 6 rocks hovering above the observatory platform shone before they merged and formed a formation. Then, Yizhen suddenly rose to his feet. He looked even more terrifying with blood flowing out of his eyes. This was a stark contrast to his earlier scholarly image. Currently, Yizhen only had 2 leaves left on his avatar. Moreover, they looked weakened as well. At this moment, Nia Qingyun suddenly remembered the formation on this observatory. He led the others and retreated swiftly. It's the observatory's 5-terminal formation of the observatory platform. Move back. The others were shocked and swiftly moved back. Sikong Beichen frowned slightly. The 5-terminal formation? The 5-terminal formation is a modification of the 10-terminal formation. It's not as wide or grand as the 10-terminal formation, but it has the same effects, Nia Qingyun said. Sikong Beichen said to Yu Shangrong and Yu Zhenghai, look after the others. I'll go over to assist your master. There's no need to help my master, Yu Zhenghai said, you'll understand soon. Great Yan's 10-terminal formation was drawn by the imperial tutor, Jiang Wenxiu, who was actually a flying star house elder. Therefore, it was not surprising there were formations in the Red Lotus domain that were similar to the 10-terminal formation in Great Yan. The 5-terminal formation was activated in just an instant. Yizhen had practically exhausted his primal chi with this action. When he saw the had been successfully activated, he smiled, clearly pleased with himself. With the blood on his face, he looked vicious and terrifying when he smiled. He wiped the blood from his face as he looked at Zhou murderously and said, Old geezer, you've underestimated me. The 5-terminal formation is complete. Most of the primal chi has been cut off. You can't kill me, but I can kill you. Zhou shook his head as though he was looking at a pitiable insect. He stroked his beard and said, "You're really pitiful. You're still unaware of the vast difference between us. Let's die together." Yi Zhen stepped forward. With his final bit of primal qi, he lunged at Zhou with his avatar. The two heads bared their fangs. At this moment, Zhou formed an energy sword with 2 fingers. The blue energy sword slashed at the first head that descended on him with merciless precision. Just like that, another head was decapitated. Ding. Killed a target. Reward, 4,500 merit points. Zhou lowered his hand for a moment before raising it again. He pushed forward and channeled all his remaining extraordinary power into his hand and grabbed the neck of the final head on Yi Zhen's avatar. Yi Zhen's eyes widened in horror. Impossible. Zhou's expression remained calm. He thought the effort he had expended was rather worthwhile. After destroying this head, he would have taken 7 of Yi Zhen's lives. It was truly worth it. At this moment, Zhou was almost out of extraordinary power and he did not have much primal qi due to the 5-terminal formation. Similarly, Yi Zhen did not have much energy left as well. Nevertheless, he was adamant about sprouting the 10th leaf. Since most of the primal qi had been cut off by the formation, his red lotus was spinning at an incredibly slow pace. Zhou shook his head and said evenly, "If I clench my hand slightly, you'll die." "No, no, no." Yi Zhen panicked. At this moment, the observatory platform was silent. The disciples and elders from the Flying Star House wanted to dive down, but with Mie Qingyun and Sikong Beichen in front of them, they did not dare to make a move. At this moment, the 5-terminal formation shattered. The pillar of light disappeared, and the Taoist veins faded away. At this moment, a scarlet figure shot toward the observatory platform and shouted, "How dare you harm a Flying Star House elder? Die." A scarlet energy sword that was dozens of feet long and 10 feet wide flew out toward Zhou. The 10-leaf Chen Tiandu. The house master is here. Yi Zhen was invigorated. His voice trembled as he cried out, "House master, save me. He's out of primal qi." Chen Tiandu advanced with his 200-foot avatar, an energy sword that was dozens of feet long. Zhou frowned slightly. Sikong Beichen joined his palms together and shouted, "I'll deal with him." Mie Qingyun stopped Sikong Beichen immediately. "What are you thinking? Step aside," Sikong Beichen said gruffly. At the same time, Yu Shangrong and Yu Zhenghai manifested their 150-foot avatars. Mie Qingyun manifested his avatar as well. Another great battle was about to begin. The elders and disciples from the Flying Star House closed in. At this moment, without letting go of the final 9 infants' head, Zhou raised his left hand and threw a deadly strike card out. Abandon wisdom. The palm seal suddenly grew as large as Buddha's palms. The 10,000 cultivators held their breaths as they watched in shock. Upon seeing this, Sikong Beichen recalled the scene in the Holy Palace. It was like déjà vu. He said somewhat emotionally, "Finally. Brother Lu is finally no longer suppressing his realm." Mie Qingyun. The palm seal easily passed through the red energy sword and continued on its trajectory. Boom. It struck Chen Tiandu's face and chest heavily, causing him to plummet 100 feet down to the foot of the mountain. A palm-shaped chasm was left in the wake of this attack. Ding. Killed a target. Reward, 5,500 merit points. Domain extra, 1,500 merit points. The heavy atmosphere seemed to freeze due to this shocking and heaven-defying palm strike. No words could describe everyone's feelings. The old man before their eyes easily killed a 10-leaf cultivator with just a single strike. How could they not be shocked speechless? The place was deathly silent. Those who had manifested their avatars silently withdrew them. They gulped, frightened and confused. Yi Zhen was only a 9-leaf cultivator. Although he had mastered the karmic fire and had several lives, his most deadly attribute had to be his cunning. His strength was a far cry from a 10-leaf cultivator. Meanwhile, Chen Tiandu was renowned under the heavens. Apart from Yizhen, he was the mainstay of the Flying Star House. He could even fight on even ground with Sikong Beichen. And yet, such a peerless character died after being hit by one of Lu Zhou's palm strikes. He was completely powerless to fight back. At this moment, Lu Zhou had used up all his extraordinary power. I'm out of deadly strike cards as well. Moreover, I'm sure that the price has gone up as well. However, Lu Zhou knew that he could not save this card even if he wanted to. Yi Zhen was stunned. For as long as he could remember, his heart had always been as calm as a still lake. No matter how great a disturbance was, he had always remained unmoved. The more people he killed, the more he grew numb. Nobody could pressure him or threaten his life. Currently, his life was being held in another person's hand. This was the first time he had felt such helpless despair. He looked at the palm-shaped pit in a daze as he called out haltingly, "House. House Master." The expressions of the 10,000 cultivators were indescribable. When the 5-terminal formation was broken, primal chi was restored to the 9 infants avatar. Lu Zhou's cultivation base was restored as well. However, he did not have much energy left after such a long battle. Naturally, he still had the peak trial card, but he did not think it was worth it to use the card in this situation. Lu Zhou's display of strength today served as a strong deterrent. No one dared to move recklessly. Lu Zhou's hand was still firmly gripping the last head on Yi Zhen's 9 infants avatar. Golden flames burst forth from between his fingers at this moment. The remaining head struggled desperately. Meanwhile, the red lotus karmic fire and golden flames cancelled each other out. It did not seem easy to destroy the last head of the 9 infants. Lu Zhou gauged his extraordinary power again. Indeed, there was nothing left. He looked at Yi Zhen, who was breathing rapidly. Should I purchase a deadly strike card right now and end this battle? Yi Zhen's consciousness was fading away, his eyes were rolled up into the sockets. However, at this moment, his red lotus buzzed. Yi Zhen's 170-foot avatar grew to 200 feet tall. A 10-leaf 9 infants. Zhenghai could not help but feel amazed. This is the first time someone has lasted this long against my master. The members of the Flying Star House saw a ray of hope amidst the darkness and despair. They really hoped Yi Zhen would survive, but felt slightly conflicted when they thought about the 9 infants. Even if he survived, would it be right for him to continue to stay in the Flying Star House? Indescribable despair filled their hearts when they thought about their dead house master. The balance was destroyed at this moment. Sikong Beichen was fully on guard. Yi Zhen's power increased several folds in just a moment. Bam! Yi Zhen finally managed to break free of Lu Zhou's grip. After he caught his breath, he chuckled. Currently, he resembled the vicious and horrifying 9 infants. It was difficult to even look him in the eyes. He reveled in his increasing strength and the new height of his avatar before he looked at Lu Zhou and said triumphantly, "The heavens are on my side. The heavens are on my side. So this is what it feels like to be a 10-leaf cultivator? You've used up all your strength. It's my turn now." Lu Zhou shook his head. "Everyone thinks you're smart, but you're acting extremely foolish now. Not even Chen Tiandu can withstand my palm strike. What makes you think you, with your crippled 9 infants avatar and recently attained 10-leaf stage, are able to defeat me who had just recently attained the 10-leaf stage? How are you going to defeat me?" Yi Zhen was taken aback. Lu Zhou's words were akin to a bucket of cold water that was splashed on his face. He recalled that shocking palm seal earlier and was reminded of Chen Tiandu's death. Run! Yi Zhen withdrew his avatar. He tapped his Dantian Sea of Qi and ignited his Sea of Qi. In just a moment, he was bathed in flames and shot toward the horizon like a meteorite. The others were stunned speechless by this. He had spoken so arrogantly just a moment ago, and now, he's making such a cowardly move? Lu Zhou stroked his beard and shook his head. Then, he raised his hand again. Binding cage card. This was his 3rd cage bind card. The golden cage flew out along with Lu Zhou as he pursued Yizhen in the air. The others followed suit. Lu Zhou looked at the golden cage and said, I don't think you'll be lucky every single time. Yizhen did not even look behind himself as he continued shooting past a few peaks. If he went further, he would be leaving Cloud Mountain's range. Yizhen turned to look at the golden cage and recalled the golden cage from before. He wondered if it was the same trick. He was under the impression that the golden cage was used to track him, so he landed on the ground and waited for the golden cage to drop. At the same time, he looked at the nearby peaks, searching for the best route to escape. The cultivators followed Lu Zhou and flew above the forest. At this moment, the golden cage dropped down on a canopy of trees. Boom. Yizhen nodded, pleased with his judgment. It's time to leave. Yizhen pushed away from the ground, flying at an angle. He had thought the golden cage would fade away when, contrary to his expectations, the golden cage began to close in on him. Yizhen launched several palm seals at the golden cage. A huge golden net was formed on the ground and in the air as it tightened. When Lu Zhou saw this, he nodded. It's finally triggered. The trees around the golden cage were crushed by the cage. At this moment, Yizhen had naturally sensed the abnormality of the situation. He continued to attack the golden columns that were closing in on him. This resembled the scene when Lu Zhou captured Lang Luo. A cornered beast would still fight. What technique is this? Why is it different from before? Someone asked in confusion. Wasn't this a tracking energy seal? It can restrict one's opponent as well? The cage continued shrinking. The sounds of Yizhen's attacks colliding with the cage resounded through the forest and the mountain range. Alas, no matter how he struggled, he could not stop the cage from shrinking. A square bald patch was created in the forest as the golden cage drew tighter. Bam! 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 Yizhen seemed to snap at this moment. Despicable. Boom! 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 Yizhen rammed against the cage in a frenzy. Alas, it was futile. Eventually, the cage tightened around his body like metal rings. He was bound tightly on the ground, and he had lost all access to his cultivation base. Lu Zhou hovered above Yizhen and looked at him indifferently. Yizhen's heart shook as he looked at the calm old man. At this moment, he finally felt the extent of the old man's power. It felt as though the person hovering above him was not human but a towering and insurmountable mountain. It seemed like the old man had intentionally lured him into lowering his guard with the first golden cage. Yizhen despaired. How sly. Lu Zhou raised his hand slowly. Unnamed appeared. He pointed the tip down as he asked evenly, Yizhen, any last words? Yizhen looked around himself. He gritted his teeth and asked with a hint of defiance, is this your true strength? Lu Zhou shook his head and said, you're not fit to witness my true strength. The others gulped. At this moment, the elders of the Flying Star House cried out, the palace forces are here. We can't lose Yizhen. Old Senior, are you going to stand against the royal court? You've already killed the house master. Are you going to wipe us all out? It seemed like the Flying Star House intended to struggle until the end. The moment the house master, Chen Tiandu, died, the power balance had been disrupted. The Flying Star House was now without a leader, and Yizhen was now a fish on the chopping board. Lu Zhou stroked his beard indifferently and said, even if Chen Tiandu were alive, he wouldn't have dared to speak to me in that tone. He lowered Unnamed and asked, so what if I decide to wipe all of you out? Swish. Under the eyes of the members of the Flying Star House, the Sky Martial Court, and the Cloud Mountain Sect, Lu Zhou brought Unnamed down. Energy shrouded Unnamed as it pierced Yizhen's skull with utmost precision. Bam. Ding. Killed a target. Reward, 5,500 merit points. Domain extra, 1,500 merit points. Indeed. What could the others do if the old man wanted to kill all of them? They felt chills run up their spines. Yizhen could not resist, and he could not unleash primal qi. Therefore, unnamed easily pierced his head. With this, the new 10-leaf Yizhen died. He was truly dead. Zhou raised his hand and withdrew unnamed. The pillar that supported the Flying Star House was completely destroyed. The people from the Flying Star House panicked and began to retreat behind the Sky Martial Court cultivators.